Good morning. Thank you for joining us today for the second webinar in our four-part series, Parliamentary Procedure for Libraries. Today's session will center on handling motions. If you haven't already, I encourage you to sign up for the final two webinars today. They're scheduled for November 22nd and December 6th. You will not want to miss them. This webinar is being recorded. Please keep your line muted during the presentation. If you have any questions along the way, send them to me via chat and I will relay them to our presenter as appropriate. Time permitting, we'll have a question and answer period after the presentation. Our presenter will once again be professional registered parliamentarian Pat Raymond. Over to you, Pat.
Thank you very much, Zach. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you again, although to tell you the truth, I can't see you, but I know you're out there and it's wonderful that you have joined us again. And I thank you for doing that. Let's see, some things to say. First of all, I still have that cough that I had 2 weeks ago, but it doesn't seem to be as bad. So hopefully I won't have any coughing fits like I did last time. And the other thing I wanted to do before we get started is answer a question that we had left dangling last time. And that was, do non-voting members get counted when you're determining the quorum? And the best answer I can give you is probably not. Your bylaws or policies, procedures that you have do not tell us too much about that. In fact, there's nothing said about the quorum. There's nothing said about Roberts too, and you might want to work on that and get that fixed up so that you have Roberts as your parliamentary authority. But in general, when we talk about a quorum, the minimum number of members needed in order to conduct business validly, it's usually talking about making motions and voting, and your non-voting members then really would not be significant in that. We certainly would love to hear from them perhaps when you're making your decision. But as far as the quorum is concerned, I think the best answer, unless you want to write something different into your bylaws, would be that no, the non-voting members would not be counted in the quorum, whatever that happens to be for you. So that finishes that. And that's what we would call unfinished business. So let's turn to today's slides, and I will share my screen if all goes well, and we'll give you this one. And we'll put it on play. And there we go. Can everybody see handling motions, how to take care of business? Okay, this is what we are going to be doing today. The way we conduct business, the way we get business done is by making motions. So what is a motion, you say? Well, we're talking about a main motion, which is a formal proposal by a member in a meeting that the assembly take specific action. And this is how you make decisions, not just by talking things out and then just letting it hang there. And it's certainly not by the person who talks the longest and the loudest. We want this to be a decision made by a majority, usually, of the membership, so that everyone has a chance to have their voice be heard. So as the maker of the motion, you get your voice heard. As one who would be speaking in debate, you get your voice heard. And certainly when you are voting, your voice is heard. So this is important so that everyone who wishes to take part in the decision-making process can do so. So we do that by a main motion, which is a formal proposal that the assembly take action, and it's a new idea. So how does a motion get in front of the group? How does that happen? Well, we have 6 steps. The first one is someone makes a motion. You will notice that this happens before debate. Now, for some people, this seems backwards. Sometimes we go to meetings and we want to talk and talk and talk about a subject and then bring up a motion. But it really keeps you on focus. It really keeps the meeting going much more smoothly if the motion is made first. So step 1, after being recognized by the chair, that is, after having getting permission from the chair to speak, a member makes a motion. And this does have to be a person who has that particular right. That member is said to have the floor, which means that everybody else is going to be quiet and listen to what this person has to say. Now, the words that begin a motion always are "I move." I can't think of any motion, well, maybe one or two. There's always some exception, but almost all the time, the motion or a motion will start with "I move." So those are the magic words you want to remember. Not, I think we oughta, not, I would like to move, or not, I motion, none of those. It's "I move." A motion should be clear, it should be complete, and it should be concise. The 3 C's: clear, complete, and concise. It should have enough information in it so that we know exactly what it is that the proposed action is. It should be understandable, but it should be concise. One sentence. When you make a motion, you make that one single sentence, if you can, motion, and then you stop talking. You don't continue to explain at that point why it is you want this motion. You just make the motion. You'll get your chance to do that in a little bit. So clear, complete, and concise. And the chair may ask that the motion be in writing for the chair and for the secretary, particularly if it has a lot of detail in it, just to make sure it's completely accurate, it goes into the minutes correctly, and when the chair is processing it, the chair is using the correct words that you, as the maker of the motion, have put up. And then we say, although we don't say it very often, the member yields the floor by sitting down. If this is an in-person meeting and you've stood up to make your motion, sitting down or just stopping talking is your way of yielding the floor. You don't have to say the words, "I yield the floor." It's not wrong, but you don't need to even think about that, actually. It just happens automatically. You're done. Okay. Okay, step 2. This makes sure that more than one member is interested in the topic. Sometimes people come to a meeting with a pet idea, and if they don't get any traction at one meeting, they'll mention it again. And if they don't get any traction at the second meeting, they'll mention it again. And if people are not interested in pursuing that topic, then don't bother seconding the motion, because that is step 2. The chair waits for another member to call out second. And if you're wondering about what comes first, second, or third, just remember that the second comes second. Pretty easy. And the chair is under no obligation to ask for a second. The member makes the motion, is finished, and then the chair just pauses and waits for someone to second the motion. If there might be some confusion over whether a second is needed at this particular point, the chair could ask for it, but you are under no obligation to do so. So we'll assume, though, that this is a great idea somebody has, and somebody calls out second. There is no recognition needed for the person making the second. Remember, the person making the motion had to get permission to speak, but the person making the second does not need that. You can just yell out second. And this member is not usually mentioned in the minutes. The maker of the motion is mentioned in the minutes, but the seconder is not usually. It's not wrong, but it is not necessary unless you have an organization in which you've got a government control or some sort of law that says that you need to have the seconder mentioned. And there are organizations that do that and need to do that, and that's fine. But just for our average garden variety, wonderful organization, you don't need to have the member written up in the minutes. Now, if no one seconds it, remember the chair is just waiting. And if there is dead silence, the motion is not repeated or considered. The chair can say, after a reasonable time, and that's 4 or 5 seconds, the motion dies for lack of a second. Or the chair doesn't even need to say that. The chair can just proceed to the next item of business. But this is, everyone has an opportunity to second it, but if they don't, then that motion is not going to be considered, not going to waste people's time if there's only one person interested in the subject. The exception here is that if a motion comes from a committee, let's say a committee has made a report at the meeting and they have recommendations and they make those in the form of a motion at the end of their report, those motions do not require a second because they come from a committee which has debated and voted on a particular topic. And so you already know that more than one person is interested in that topic. So it does not require a second. If somebody jumps in with a second, no harm, no foul, but it is not, a second is not required. Okay, step 3. Repeat and invite. This was the job of the chair at this point. Step number 3. The chair repeats the motion exactly as it was stated and then opens the floor for debate. This is the time. Well, let's just say what the chair says. The chair says, it is moved and seconded to, and repeats the motion. And then, are you ready for the question, or is there any debate? Those terms are sort of interchangeable. It means the same thing. Are you ready for the question means, are you ready for the vote? And if you aren't ready for the vote, then it means you have some debate. So either way, is there any debate is a little bit more straightforward, and I think more people understand what that means. So I would go with the second one. The chair at this point is making sure that the motion is in order at this time. Sometimes there are motions that are perfectly wonderful motions, but not now. That the motion is phrased in a clear manner and that everyone knows what the proposal is, what it is we're talking about. Again, this is the role of the chair. Okay, how does, I was expecting something else on this slide, but here we go. So how does the group consider a motion? We just had the first 3 steps in getting the motion out there on the floor so that the membership can consider it. So what is the next step? What does the group do to process this motion? Okay, step 4, all speakers must be recognized by the chair during debate. You can't just start talking. It is very important to kind of control traffic here to make sure that people have permission to speak. So members take turn debating the pending motion. The pending motion is the motion that's on the floor. It's the one that the chair has just stated. But I want to take some time to talk more about debate. We'll spend a little time on this because debate is where people kind of get messed up at meetings occasionally. Things go smoothly until you get to this step. So let's talk about debate. Debate is supposed to be persuasive speech to influence the vote on a motion. Persuasive. I get those words mixed up. Sorry. Persuasive speech to influence the vote on a motion. In other words, when you are speaking in debate, your focus should be on why you are in favor of that motion or why you are opposed to that motion. And you're trying to convince other people in the room or on the meeting to vote your way. So your focus is that. I speak in favor of this motion because, or I am opposed to this motion because. Now, you don't have to say it just like that, but it has to be understood by the other people in the group what it is you're saying. You're saying, vote no, vote yes. This is not the time for comments. I've been at meetings, and you maybe have too, where there's a motion on the floor and somebody wants to make a comment. If it's not debate, if it's not persuasive speech to influence the vote on the motion, It really should not be there. People should not be wasting other people's times with just a comment. Same thing with suggestions. We'll talk about what to do about a suggestion in a little bit here. But it's, someone should not be debating by saying, why don't we do it this way instead? And that's just a suggestion. And that is not part of the debate. And it's certainly not time for a trip down memory lane. Oh, yeah, I remember when we did that 20 years ago. Da 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 da. Okay, so we could do that. Debate must be relevant, and we use the term germane to the topic. It should move the decision-making process along. It should be helpful. It should be helpful in having people make up their minds and whether or not they're going to follow through on this motion. So what are the rules for debate? There are a bunch. This is not all of them, but this is the ones that probably are the top few. As I said before, members must be recognized by the chair before speaking. And don't presume that you've got permission for a follow-up. Say what you want to say, and then you'll be done for then. You don't get a chance to clarify necessarily or speak again right away. So don't presume that you can just follow that up right away. This is next one. Oh, in fact, I'm sorry, these aren't coming out one at a time. Members may speak only twice on the same motion on the same day. That's a rule that sometimes gets dropped by the wayside, unless you're in something like a big convention in which you've got rules already printed out. But that's the typical rule: speak only twice on the same motion. So you want to make sure that every time you speak, those 2 times, you have said everything that you want to say on that particular topic, because you're not going to get any more than those 2 turns. Now, on the same day is significant because there may come a time when you're in the middle of debate and somebody wants to postpone the motion to the next meeting. And that's perfectly fine. And we'll talk more about that next time. If that happens and you have spoken twice today on this motion, you may speak again twice next time on that same motion because it's a different day. So that's the significance of on the same day. Members may speak a second time only after all who wish to speak have done so once. Okay, you got that one? You have to let everybody else speak first before you come in the second time. Now, the chair is going to be helping with that. I mean, the chair is directing traffic, but it's really very helpful, particularly in a large group, that you kind of monitor yourself on that too. Don't ask for permission to speak if you know that there are other people who haven't spoken yet that want to, that, are in the line there. Don't do that if you can. And the maker of the motion may speak first if he or she claims the floor. The debate is to be addressed to the chair, not to other members. So don't go speaking back and forth between yourself and somebody who's on the opposite side from you. All remarks need to be addressed to the chair. And that kind of keeps the temperature down too, if there's something going on that's starting to get heated. If you're speaking to the chair and not directly to each other, people tend to be a little calmer about it. Right. And a few more. The chair must maintain the appearance of neutrality. That is, the chair should not be jumping in with, oh yeah, you're right, that's a good idea. Yes. The chair needs to be neutral and just be directing traffic and let the group make the decision. Now, if there is something the chair really, really feels that he or she must say, then you can leave the chair, that is, have your vice chair or someone else guide the meeting through the vote on that particular topic. Then you just become a regular member like everybody else. You can get to speak twice, but you Don't resume the chair until after the vote is taken on that particular motion that you are speaking on. Now, people love this one. Speeches in Robert are allowed to be 10 minutes long. Now, that's a really long time. But it can be curtailed by a motion, and we'll talk about some of those motions next time. But hopefully you will not have to deal with a meeting in which people speak 10 minutes each time they speak, because that's too long. You will find if you go to big meetings like conventions, for instance, you will probably adopt rules at the very beginning of the convention that will limit debate, that will say that you can speak only 2 minutes, or sometimes you can only speak once. So they'll adopt rules that'll control that a bit. Okay, now during debate, members may make secondary motions such as recess, postpone, amend, refer to committee, but no other main motions are in order until this one is taken care of. So you've got a main motion on a particular topic. You can have these secondary motions that I've listed here because they help you deal with the main motion. They don't bring in anything new, but you don't have two topics going at the same time. You also may ask questions. If there's a question that you have that's germane to the issue and you need some information before you can decide what to do, you may ask questions during the debate time. Okay. Speakers must be courteous and may not make personal attacks on other people. That should go without saying, but people do need to be reminded from time to time. And if things are very vocal, if there's a lot of discussion and debate one way and the other, the chair may ask speakers to alternate pros and cons. So for instance, the maker of the motion gets to speak first. And by the way, the maker must speak only in favor of the motion. They cannot speak against the motion. They may ultimately vote against their motion, but they can't speak against it. So that'll be the first speaker in favor. Then if the chair sees a lot of activity, the chair can say, all right, who would like to speak against it? And then who would like to speak in favor? So go back and forth, alternate between those in favor and those against. That is the prerogative of the chair to do that, if you'd like. Okay. Now, I hope these are coming up one at a time like I'd asked it to. Let's look at some of the things that are said, that might possibly be said at a meeting. And I would like you to just tell me if what is said is helpful, if it moves the debate along, is it, shall we say, good debate or not? Okay, there's a motion on the floor for the group to hold a picnic on June 5th. Okay, please just come out one there. Okay, so somebody raises their hand, gets permission to speak, and says, I think it should be on a different day because it always rains on June 5th. Is that helpful? That's a suggestion, isn't it? And we said we did not like suggestions, but that person has a valid point. Maybe they've got their phone up and see that, sure, June 5th, we get a lot of rain. Let's do a different day. But what the person should do, instead of saying, I think it should be a different day, would be to offer an amendment. And they could say instead, I move to amend the motion by striking out June 5th and inserting June 19th. And that would require a second, majority vote, and so forth to see if you want to amend that motion. So that would be helpful. If a person has an idea to change something, then make it straight away, make it an amendment. And then we can deal with that, and that's moving business along. But I think it is not helpful at all. All right. And of course, there's somebody who says, that's a ridiculous idea. Now, I think you're all polite enough to know that that is not something you would say out loud. You might think so, but you would not say that out loud. What you might say would be, I speak against this motion because we would miss our educational session that month, or whatever it is that you think it makes this a ridiculous idea. So frame it in a way that says you are speaking against the motion, but give a valid reason, not just it's ridiculous. Okay, because those are fighting words. Okay, and here's somebody with a comment. Oh, yeah, we had a picnic back in 2019. Is that helpful? Doesn't say whether it was a good idea or not. That's not helpful. That's just a comment. Instead, how about, I speak in favor of having a picnic because the last time we had fun and became better acquainted with each other. Okay, that's the same idea, but in a more helpful format. Okay, how about these? City Bakery would be a good place to get dessert if we decide to do this. Kind of jumping the gun a little bit, wouldn't you say? Instead, this person could say, I think a picnic is a good idea, and I'd be willing to serve on the planning committee. So the person is speaking in favor of it and offering to help out if you do decide to do it. And that can be persuasive to people too, if as long as, yeah, we can vote to have a picnic, but who's gonna set it up? If you've got somebody that's already agreed to be on the planning committee, that helps. Okay. All right, here's someone that says, Madam Chair, would you please ask the treasurer how much money is in the party fund? Okay, actually, that is good because it's not asking the treasurer directly. The person is speaking to the chair, and they're asking how much money is in the party fund because that would perhaps affect how much this is going to cost. Are you going to take all the money for the food out of the party fund? Or are you going to ask people to bring stuff? Or a combination of the two? So this is getting more, and this is a question, getting more information so that you can help, to make a decision on whether or not you want to hold a picnic in June. So that's a good one. How about this one? John, you're always against any motion I make. Okay, now that's exasperation speaking, and that's not helpful in this. It might be true. It might be true that John's out to get you. Anything that you say, John's going to speak against, someone would say the opposite, but it isn't a good idea to bring it out. What you can do is, if you see this happening, is try to figure out what makes John tick. Is John upset because every time you spend money? Is he a person that wants to hang on to every penny in that treasury? Well, then when you make your motions or give your debate, that you would keep that in mind, that perhaps you can mention some of the possibilities for people bringing food themselves, or that it would not take a whole lot of money out of the treasury, whatever. So try to figure out what is the trigger for John, and then deal with that when you speak. Now, if it's strictly anything that you say, then you would perhaps have somebody else make the motion for you. And that's okay. How about if I finish this slide, Zach? Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. And here's somebody with a very interesting comment, or not. According to Google, 7.6% of all organizations hold picnics with their members. Now, what does that have to do with anything that we're talking about? Not really anything. It's just a comment, a fun fact, but not helpful. So we would not want that particular comment. We would not want a little anger at John, but we want to move debate along. Okay, I can't decide how to vote. Someone is exasperated. I can't decide how to vote. All right, that can happen. And so what a person could do is, I move to postpone this motion to the next meeting. And as I said before, we'll talk about postpone next time. But this would be a way to wait and figure out, let people percolate on the ideas that have been raised. And instead of making the decision at this meeting, let's make the decision at next meeting and just think about it more and maybe get some more information if we can. But that would be one way to help you decide how to vote, is by putting it off a little bit. Okay. All right. I think that's, yeah, let's go back. Whoops. No, I want to go back here. There. Okay, Zach. Are there questions?
Yes, if there are further questions, please feel free to write them in the chat right now. We have a question from Alice who asks, does asking a question count as one of your 2 opportunities to speak on a motion in a day?
Oh, good question. No, it does not. It does not count against your debate. Mhm.
Okay, thank you. That's all of the questions we have.
That's all the questions. Okay. All right, well, I think we're done with that debate section. Let's see what else we have. Okay, yes, step 5. That was all step 4, was the debate. Now, debate ends naturally or by a motion. And again, that'll be a motion we'll talk about next time. By ending naturally, I mean that nobody has anything to say. The chair asks for any more debate and nobody says anything. So that means you're ready to go to the vote. The chair does not have the option to say, okay, we've had enough debate. Let's stop now and let's just go to the vote. The chair cannot cut off debate arbitrarily like that. You can do it because if it ends naturally, or as I said, by motion, if someone has made a motion to stop debate and it's been processed and all that, then the debate has stopped. But the chair does not have the authority to cut off debate. Okay, so when debate ends, the chair repeats the motion, just in case anybody's lost about what we are doing, and calls for the vote. That's also phrased as puts the question to a vote. So the chair says, is there any further debate? Or are you ready for the question, whichever one the chair likes to use? And then here it is. The question is on the adoption of the motion to, and that's have the picnic on June 5th or 19th, whatever one you ended up deciding on. And then the vote may be taken any number of ways. The most common is the voice vote, which is aye/no. Now, it's not aye and nay, which would match. It's not yes and no, and that would match. It's aye and no. It helps if you think of a face. You're taking the ayes and you're taking the noes. Okay. But that is the most common, is a voice vote. It depends on the situation, which way the vote goes depends on the situation. And I think that's our last, our 4th session is going to be about that. It might be asking you to raise your hand, either if you're in person or it's Zoom. It's nice to use that raise hand feature. If you're in person, might be a rising vote, that is everybody stands who can. If it's going to be really close, could be a counted rising vote, could be by roll call, ballot, all kinds of ways. But again, it depends on the situation. Abstentions, by the way, are not called for. Non-voters seldom make a difference in the outcome. In fact, well, I can't say never, because, as soon as you say never, there are exceptions. But you don't ask for abstentions. Just don't ask for those in favor, ask for those against. And then abstentions just are people who decide not to vote for whatever reason, but you don't ask for them and they don't get put in the minutes or any of that good stuff. Unless, okay. Occasionally, if you are in a situation where some member may have a conflict of interest, it might be you're buying something from that person's or that family's business, that person may decide to abstain from the vote and may request that that be put in the minutes, and that would be appropriate. But that doesn't happen very often, I don't think. Okay. All right, so that's the taking of the vote. But the chair must remember to let the assembly know what happened. The chair must announce the result of the vote, whether the ayes or the noes have it. Notice how you spell nose, N-O-E-S. Took me a long time to find that. It's like potatoes, N-O-E-S. The ayes or the noes have it, or they might say the affirmative or the negative have it. There are or are not 2/3 of the affirmative. Again, depending on the type of vote that you took. But the chair needs to make the statement whether the motion is adopted or lost. And if the motion is adopted, then you go into what will happen next. If you're purchasing something, then we will purchase, or the secretary will purchase, or the secretary will mail something out, or a committee will do this, whatever. The chair just announces what happens. Let the assembly know what happened. And then the chair proceeds to the next item of business. Okay, more questions, Zach?
Another question. I apologize, I missed this one. It's about comments. The question is, what language does the chair use in response to these comments?
Okay, if somebody wants to make a comment and, oh, okay, the chair thought it was going to be debate, but a person just made a comment. Well, certainly the chair wants to be gentle, but you do want to instruct people that really what they need to do is to be speaking in favor or against. And I think what, as a chair, I would say, are you, after the comment, are you speaking in favor of this motion or against it? And just make them take a stand, or just say, oh, no, I'm just making a comment. I said, well, I would say then comments are not in order at this time.
Okay, thank you, Pat. There's another question
Mhm.
submitted by myself. Are members allowed to introduce a motion for the chair to put the question to a vote?
You mean to stop debate and put the question to a vote right now?
Yeah.
Yes, there is a motion for that, and that's one of the ones we're going to be talking about next week. It's called previous question, and it is a motion that requires, oops, I'm sorry. I will try to silence this. There. Okay, sorry. It's a motion that requires a second and a 2/3 vote to stop debate. So, but you can do that.
Okay, thank you. Finally, can a motion be approved by acclamation?
Acclamation is not generally what we call it. We call it unanimous consent. And by that, the chair would say, is there any objection to doing this? And then, if, excuse me, water time. Okay, the chair would ask, is there any objection? And pause. And then if somebody has an objection, that would be the time for them to just say it. I do, and then we'd take it at the usual, a vote in the usual way. But if nobody says that they object, then the motion would pass by what we call unanimous consent. And that's a helpful thing. We'll be talking about that later also.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. That's all the questions for now.
Okay. Well, here we go. Any questions? You've given me some here. All right. Well, I have some questions for you. Is it all right if they unmute and then just kind of yell out these answers?
Absolutely. Feel free
Okay.
to unmute everybody.
Okay. What goes first in processing emotions? Debate or the making of a motion?
Making of motion.
Making of the motion, right. You do the making of the motion before you do the debate. And for some people, this is obvious. For other people, it's backwards. But this is what is correct. Okay, what do members need to have before they make a motion or begin debating?
The floor, permission to speak from the chair.
Yes, the floor, permission to speak from the chair. Very good. What are the first two words of a motion? Everybody? I move. Very good, thank you. It sounds like third grade, but it's important. And just having you say it is important because that goes into your brain too. Okay. What three characteristics should a motion have? Remember the 3 C's?
Clear, complete, concise.
Very good. Clear, complete, and concise. Yes. Who is given priority in debate the first time?
The chair, maker of the motion.
Maker of the motion gets to speak first. Correct. What should the chair say before taking the vote?
Are you ready for the question?
Yes, that's one part. And what's the other part?
Let me check.
The chair asks if you're ready for the question, but also has to
Repeat the motion.
Repeat the motion. Thanks,
Yes.
Carla.
That's right. Repeat the motion. So everybody is clear on what they're voting on. And you will see when we get into things like amendments and so forth, how important that is, because you can get really into a tangled mess. Okay, then I want somebody to give me the 6 steps in order.
Ooh,
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. So what's the first one? You don't have to give me all 6. Just give me one at a time, please. What's the first one?
Make a motion.
Yes. After recognition, a member makes the motion. Now everybody knows this one. What's the second step?
Second.
Second. Yes, another member seconds the motion. All right. Third.
repeated and ask for debate.
Yes. Chair repeats the motion and asks for debate. Oh, very good. Okay, so we've got the motion on the floor now. Ask for debate. So what would be number 4?
Chair recognizing individuals to debate.
Yes, members debate would be the short form. Yes, time for debate. Number 5. After debate, what do? Debate stops.
The debate ends.
Calls the question.
Yes, the chair repeats the motion and puts the question to a vote. Yes. Okay, and the last one?
A
What does-
vote?
Well, no, the vote is considered in number 5. And number 6 is something else the chair needs to do.
And the
Report
chair
the vote.
announces the result.
Announce the result of the vote. So those are your 6. Make a motion, second it, repeat the motion, ask for debate, repeat the motion and put the question to a vote, and announce the result of the vote. Chair has a very important job through this. Make sure that everyone understands what's going on, make sure everybody's clear, make sure everyone has a turn who wishes to when they're speaking, and make sure that everybody knows the result of the vote. So, good. Okay. All right, I'm looking for 4 volunteers. If I need to, I'll get voluntold, but I need someone to offer to be member A, and that person's job would be to compose a main motion to hold your next meeting at the Arboretum. And you could add a few details to that if you want to make it more complete. but it doesn't have to really be any longer than that. And then you will also be asked to be the first one to debate. So will somebody volunteer to be member A? Otherwise, we'll get a voluntold.
I'll volunteer. This is Ann.
Thank you. And what's your name, please?
Ann.
Anne. All right. Anne is A. That's convenient. All right. I need a chair. And the chair will begin the process by asking, is there any new business? And then Anne will come up and ask for recognition. I know I don't know if you're going to be able to see each other, but we'll pretend that you have received recognition, even if it's not really possible to do that. So, and then the chair will process the resulting motion, excuse me. So who will be chair? Well, how about if you get stuck? Zach, can you pick somebody?
Or Zach, be the chair.
I'm a facilitator, not a participant.
Oh,
Oh, that's not
Sure, I'll be the
true.
chair.
And that would make you the perfect chair.
I'll be the-
yeah, you'd be neutral. Okay, did you say you'd do it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, member B will be the person to second the motion and speak in favor of it when appropriate. So he will be B. Do we have any Bens, Barbaras, Bobs, Bills, Brenda?
We do have a Carol. Carol, would you be willing to be member B?
Is there more than one Carol? Otherwise, I'll do it.
You're the Carol I was thinking of. Thank you very
Oh.
much.
Thank you, Carol. And we also have we need a member C, but we want Carol to be B. Who would like to be C? You just have to speak against the motion. They only have to do that once. Who will be a C?
I can do it because I'm Crystal.
Thank you, Crystal. Good sports. Okay. And Chair, Zach, are you ready? All right, Zach, you're
I
first.
am ready.
Okay.
Is there any new business?
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion.
The
And
chair
that-
recognizes Anne.
Thank you. I move that we hold our December 15th, 2023 meeting at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum.
Thank you, Anne.
Nope,
And
no,
has-
Chair, you don't want to give her any encouragement whatsoever.
Oh, thank
No,
you.
Doesn't take
you
much,
don't
we
wanna
know that.
Violate your neutrality,
Anne
Okay,
Walker Smalley has made a motion to hold our next meeting at the Arboretum.
did you get your second though?
I second the motion.
Okay, so you want your second to be second, and then you want to repeat it. Okay,
Okay.
okay, see, I know it sounds real easy when I explain it
Right.
to you, but when you actually go to use it, it's, you gotta really, yeah, okay. So Zach asked if there's any new business, and then Anne made her motion. Now, at
Okay.
that point, everybody, the world stops, and we hang on and wait until Carol says second. Okay,
And she did.
all right, so Carol, how about nice and loud?
I second the motion.
Okay, now Zach can go ahead and say it is moved and seconded.
It is moved and seconded to hold our next meeting at the Arboretum.
Oh, except you've got it, here I'm gonna pick on you. You've got to say exactly the way she did, which was to hold the December 15th meeting at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum. So you got to use her words.
Okay. It is it is moved and seconded to hold our December 15th meeting at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum.
Good. And then your next question is,
I have to get the debate going.
yeah. So you just, after you've
Are
repeated
you
it,
ready for the question as I have just restated the motion, or is there any debate?
there you go. All right. Now, Anne's up.
The chair recognizes Ann Walker Smalley.
Wait a minute, I'm not debating against it, so I speak again in favor of it, is that correct? And what about Crystal, who is against it?
Well, you didn't really speak in favor. You made the motion,
Okay,
but now you need to explain why you think.
why I want to, okay, thank you, Pat.
Yeah, that's good.
The Arboretum meeting space is available for us on December 15th. It offers the facilities that we need, including AV and the possibility of catering. And it could be an interesting spot to hold this next meeting.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Ann.
Now either B or
Further
C.
debate? Oops, I thanked her.
No, don't thank her. Just,
I made that mistake
I know
again.
it's lovely manners. You were raised with lovely manners, but you'd still need to be neutral. Okay. So we need member B or C.
Chair,
Is there further debate?
I'd like to speak in support.
The chair recognizes Carol.
I'm speaking in support of holding our next meeting at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum because the organization is a member of our Greater Library Association and we'd have the ability to tour the library.
I will not thank Carol. Is there further debate?
I'd like to speak against.
The chair recognizes Crystal.
I speak against this motion because it conflicts with another meeting.
Is there any further debate? Hearing nothing. Debate closed. Let's hold a vote. I will now put the question. Are you ready for the question? The question is on the adoption of the motion to hold the December 15th meeting at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum.
Probably just do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
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 We have
No, you have to take the opposed also.
all those opposed say no.
No.
The ayes have it. We will hold our next meeting, our December 15th meeting at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum.
Okay. All right, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted
Motion is adopted.
and we will hold the next meeting. There you go. Okay, everybody give me a hand. Nice job. I appreciate your your willingness to step up and do that. I know that's putting you on the spot, but sometimes that's what happens. You get on the spot right now because somebody's brought up something that you're either very much in favor or very much against, and you need to, take a deep breath and jump in and give your opinion. So good, but nice job, Chair.
Thank you.
I
It
know
really
that.
goes to show how good your advice is to have a script,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I kept glancing at my notes, and of course my notes are lengthier than just the what the chair is supposed to say. So just having that script, I think, as you recommended, would be extremely helpful.
Yeah, thank you. It does help, truly. Okay, think that might be the end of my thing. It is. Are there any other questions? Anything else that has come up? We've got about, what, 6 more minutes, 5 or 6 more minutes? I see next time we're going to be talking about special motions. And those will be some of the ones that we talked about today and just talked briefly about. And if, I don't know if anybody has any ideas about ones that you'd like me to include. I have some of my favorites that I plan to bring up. But if you have any motions that you've heard of, or if you want to know how to get out of a certain situation, let me know. Let me know, and I'll see if I can work it into the presentation.
Thank you. We do have a question that has just come in from Ann Walker Smalley. She asks, when does the parliamentarian become involved in the debate, discussion, and the meeting?
Ah, good question. Best case scenario, never. Worst case scenario, when the chair gets stuck, if there's an issue as to, I don't know, who it got recognized next, who should be the next person to speak. And that can be tricky in a Zoom meeting. It can be tricky in person too. Is it who had their hand up next, who needs to be recognized? So a parliamentarian can sit next to the president and help figure out, who should be called on next. And I have done that at conventions. It's kind of funny, actually. That would be it. If someone, I'm trying to think, when the parliamentarian gets into debate, the parliamentarian should never debate an issue. Should always be neutral and never have an opinion on whether or not you should hold a picnic on June 5th or the 19th, whatever dates we talked about. So even if the parliamentarian is a member of the assembly, the parliamentarian gives up the right to speak and debate when he or she becomes the parliamentarian. You don't get to vote either unless it's by written ballot. And that would be, a secret ballot. So the parliamentarian is always neutral. If the president has a question, the parliamentarian would help answer it. Sometimes privately, sometimes out to the whole group as an explanation as to why the chair makes a certain ruling. The parliamentarian never makes rulings, by the way. The parliamentarian only gives advice. It is the chair who makes rulings. And that's just the way that's the way it's supposed to be. The chair or the parliamentarian has no power, no authority, just there as an advisor.
We do have another question that came in. Sorry to break in.
No, I'm done.
Perhaps it's for now or for next time. What is the motion process when electing officers, president, secretary, etc., during the meeting?
Okay. It is not done by motion. It is done differently. Usually you'll have a report from a nominating committee, say, if you've got a nominating committee that was seeking candidates, or it could just be nominations could be taken from the floor. And when all the nominees are, well, in fact, you'd have both. If you have a committee, you also may take nominations from the floor. So you gather and list, and the chair would again have this in a script, list the people who have been nominated for such and such an office. You can ask, are there any further nominations? And then at some point the nominations are closed. And then there is usually a ballot. When you're electing people, a secret ballot is the best way to go if you can. And then usually you need to have, the person needs to have more than half, needs to have a majority of votes in order to become an officer. I'm just wondering how long to go, because that's a whole, that's a whole session. It's a great question, but that does take that, but it's not done by motion. The only time, there might be a time when the person is elected by acclamation if they are the only one running for a particular office. If they are the only nominee for secretary, and your bylaws allow it, the chair can say, there are no further nominees, nominations are closed. Then so-and-so is elected by acclamation. And that would be the closest thing to an election, like, or a vote, and that isn't a vote either.
Okay,
So,
thank you for the question.
mhm.
And thank you for today's session, Pat. We will definitely look forward to the third one coming up in 2 weeks on November 22nd. And we hope to see all of you there.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.